practical. But this is what's called an onion piqué or an onion cloute. Okay, so you take a piece of an onion, stab a bay leaf and a clove or two, and you usually steep this in the milk. Right? Usually when I do it, I put it in there after I put my roux and my milk together. And the whole idea here is just to get a little bit of a flavor from the aromatic bay leaf, cloves, and the onion. You get the bechamel, just a little bit of flavor. Because really all bechamel is milk and roux. We don't got a lot of flavor going on there, so we help it out a little bit with an onion piqué. Okay? I was taught you should always make a sauce in a stainless steel pot. No aluminum, especially dealing with dairy. Aluminum reacts no good. It will turn it gray, give your sauce a bad color. So always go in stainless steel. Also, avoid pots that are thin on the bottom. Try to get a heavy gauged bottom pot. Okay? Especially again dealing with dairy products, they can very easily burn. Everything can burn, anyways. But when you start dealing with a thin pot, it can burn even easier. Okay? Pick a pot that makes sense for the size of sauce you're making. I'm going to make a quart of sauce. This is a 2-quart sauce pot, so it makes sense. It'll be about half full. Okay? I was taught also you should have, when you're making a sauce, it's better for one thing to be hot and the other thing to be cold. It's not good for both to be cold and both to be hot, and it's because of the formation of lumps in the roux. The roux doesn't totally dissolve. And the whole idea, you want to use the right amount of the roux for the viscosity of the sauce. And if the roux is in lumps, then it's not doing its job. And then you got to strain it, which I'm going to show you how to strain it anyways, but you don't have to. Right? So, I'm going to make my roux. I don't have any roux right now. I'm going to make the roux. So the roux is going to be hot. That means I leave the milk cold. Right? So in my pot, I want you guys to make a quart of bechamel. You make a quart of bechamel, you make a quart of velouté. So 1 quart, how many ounces are in a quart? Right? There are 32 ounces in a quart. The rule of thumb for the viscosity formula is 10%. Viscosity formula is 10%. That means there's 32 ounces in a quart. That means you need 3.2 ounces of roux for minimum viscosity. This is very simple. You don't need calculators. Divide, how much soup do you need? I need 5 gallons. Well, how many ounces are in 5 gallons? 5 times 128. Okay, 5 times 128. So that's going to be about 600, 650, let's say 700 to be safe. I need 700 ounces of soup. Well, what's 10% of 700 ounces? 70. So I need 70 ounces of roux. Roux is half butter or fat and half flour. So that's how much roux you need. So it's easy to figure out. Okay? So I have my pot. I'm going to add my clarified butter, because your textbook says you should use clarified butter for everything. Let me turn this down back there. I'm going to clarified butter back here. And by the way, let me just show you this beautiful yellow, no foam, no water, clarified butter. Gorgeous, right? We did that last week. And Michaela's gonna clarify a little more today. We got another 5 pounds here we're going to clarify. And by the way, when we clarify butter, what are we doing? We're removing the what? The milk solids, and we're evaporating off all the water. So we're left only with fat. Okay? Is clarified butter expensive? Yes. Generally speaking, $30 a gallon. Okay? You want to make it a lot cheaper? Use corn oil. $9 a gallon. Big difference. So I got my butter. I'm going to add my flour. How much flour am I going to put in here? I'm going to put a little bit, and then I'm going to cook it. And I was taught to use a wooden spoon in the beginning. So use a wooden spoon in the beginning for your roux. Because a wooden spoon can get into corners of the pot. You don't want it to burn. Okay? You're going to mix that together, and it should look like wet sand. All right, I'm going to show you how it should look. Okay? You're not making a lot. I'm going to pass it around. You guys will all have the opportunity to make this today. That's the whole idea of this. You have plenty of time today, but you got to clean your pots out. I usually make my roux looking the way I want it to look, and then I cook it. Okay, this is what I'm looking for right here. This is the consistency of the roux I'm looking for right here. Okay? It looks like wet sand, or kind of like mashed potato. Well, thick mashed potatoes. It shouldn't be thin. It's pretty thick. I think it looks like wet sand, if you ask me. Frosting for a cake, sort of. Melted sugar cookie dough. Okay. Okay. All right. That's what you're looking for. And I've hardly cooked it. I mean, I didn't even cook it at all yet. I didn't cook it at all. So put it on the heat. And the whole idea here, that's going to get hot, and I don't want that to burn in the corners. I don't want that to burn in the corners, so I got to keep an eye on it and stir it a little bit. But this doesn't take long at all. I'm going to cook this for like 3 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes. Cut me a new piece. That piece fell on the floor. Moderate heat. The whole idea on this roux, you don't want any color, and it shouldn't get thin. So you're only cooking it for a short amount of time. By the way, this is a white roux. Okay? This is a white roux. Okay? Is it white? Yeah. No, it's not really white. It's more yellow. It's considered a white roux. It's for a bechamel. For a velouté, which I'm going to make next, you're going to cook it longer. It's going to be a blonde roux. Okay? Okay. A white roux is the strongest roux. It's got the most thickening power. And the reason is because the flour particles in there are closest to its original form. They're big. When you cook the roux longer, what happens? The more you cook it, the flour starts to break apart in pieces. It gets smaller and smaller. And the flour particles get smaller and smaller. They can only absorb less liquid. So it doesn't work as strong, as good for thickening. So the white roux is the strongest. Okay? So I'm letting this get hot. Don't touch it. This will burn you. It's hot. Okay? This will burn you. Roux is very hot. Some people going over here and they splatter it around too much. They're using a whisk and it splatters, or the roux is really wet. Again, notice my roux is not wet at all. It's nice and thick. It's wet. It tends to splash and splatter. If it hits you in the skin, you're going to have a blister there. Just be very careful. And it starts just getting a little bit of an aroma. It starts getting just a little bit of aroma. It should start to have a little bit of a roux smell to it, which I'm going to go around and let you sniff it. All right, it's different from the blonde. A little big difference. That's my roux smell. Smell? That smell is butter and flour cooked together. It's not really cooking the flour a lot.
It smells like onions.
Smell that? That's that roux smell. That is not a blonde roux. That is a white roux. That is a white roux. Really got to stick your nose in there. Careful, it's hot. That's a white roux. Okay? I'm going to do this again in a few minutes. When I make a velouté, it's going to smell different.
Yeah.
Okay? So, my roux's cooked. Now to the roux, and now I'm going to add my quart of milk. Okay? So you get a measuring container, measure yourself out a quart. How many quarts are in a gallon? When you have a measuring container, I was a full gallon. I used to use a quart. This should be a fourth of this. So look about right?
Yeah.
That looks about right. So you can check yourself, because there's different size measuring containers. So be careful. Now I'm going to add my cold milk to my hot roux. Here I switch. I switch to the whisk. I get all the roux off my wooden spoon. Make sure it's all there. It's only made so much. And I started with about a little less than 2 ounces of butter, about 1 ounce and 3/4. And I added about 1 ounce and 3/4 of flour. I'm trying to get 3.5 ounces of roux. Okay? So, roux's on, I'm going to add the milk all at once. So the roux's hot, milk's cold. So add the milk all at once, and then whisk it. And what's going to happen now is the roux is going to dissolve into the milk. Now what I don't want to have happen is I don't want the roux to get stuck in the corners. Come on in, come on in. What do you need? What do you need?
Chef, I was wondering if you have any Béchamel or Mornay sauce?
No, we're making it. We'll come back in an hour.
Oh, tomato sauce.
Tomato sauce is in there. How much you want?
For tomato sauce, we give about 4.
You have a container? You can put it in your hands.
We'll back. We're
Shoe?
going to check and then just bring it back.
I'm making bechamel now.
Perfect, thank you.
So use the whisk. Notice at the end of the whisk there's a little brown piece of wire there. That little brown wire should go into the corner of the pot to help make sure you get all the roux out of the side. So be careful with that. Otherwise, you're not using all the roux, again lumps. And now I can turn up my heat a little bit, and I'm going to bring that to a boil. While it comes to a boil, generally speaking, this is when I throw my onion piqué back in my bechamel. All right? Nothing difficult so far. Yes.
Do you ever procure
If I'm doing large quantities. Some people put the flour in there, just cook the flour out. But that's usually for a blonde roux or a brown. Now my mom, when she was alive, she used to make her flour, cook her flour in a cast iron skillet. Real slow, stirring it. She watches soap operas, and every 10 minutes go in there and stir, back and forth, until the flour was like cocoa. And then she put that in a container in a shelf, and it would be there for months. And whenever she wanted to make a brown roux, she would melt butter and add the brown flour to it. She'd have roux like that, ready to go. But that's more of a Cajun Creole kind of style. Go. Let me go here first. And go over here. Turn that off. Let it settle down for a while. Too hot. Nice. I'll cook down a little bit. Okay, so we're going to bring this to a boil. Now you got to be careful with milk anyway. Milk can burn very easily because of the fat in it. Right, so you got to be careful a little bit. Tyler, help him out. Get a big ladle and help him out with the tomato sauce in the cooler. All right. So now, just be careful with the heat. You don't want the heat too high. You want it to take its time heating up. If it's too hot, the sides will also get over dark, and it will affect the color of the sauce too. So make sure the heat is, generally speaking, directly under the pot. In this kitchen, these flames get high. You can come up in the sides of the pot. You don't want that to happen. Directly under the pot. Let this come to a boil. When does the roux fully kick in? The roux fully kicks in when it finally comes to a boil. So you got to bring it to a boil. And this takes a little while because the milk was cold, 40 degrees. So it's going to take a while to get it up to 212. All right? But there's no rush. Let it do its job. Meanwhile, just to save some time, I'm going to go